Hello again, everybody, and welcome to this NSPN conversation. I'm Justin Barrientos, and today we're joined by John Cassellius, who is the principal at Houston High School and also the head football coach at Winona Senior High School. Coach Cassellius, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, let's start with the milestone. This weekend, you reached 100 wins in your coaching career at Winona Senior High School. Tell us a little bit about what that meant to you and what that was like this weekend.
It's a pretty special moment. It really lets you reflect on all the different teams you've had, the different, captains you've had, the parents' involvement, the coaching staff, and just the number of people that it takes and the longevity it takes to, reach that 100 win milestone, especially in a sport like football where, you're guaranteed eight, guaranteed nine, and that's really all you're guaranteed. So sometimes those milestones just take a little bit longer because of the nature of the sport. But yeah, super special. I have the opportunity to, share it with my son who's on my coaching staff and my wife who was there. And then after the game, I was also able to connect with my daughter who's in Phoenix via a little FaceTime. So, obviously family is important to me, but I think the football family is really important as well. But I kept it really quiet. The only person I told beforehand was my wife. And so some people were like, "Why didn't you tell us?" And I was like, "Well, I just kind of wanted to, I guess, surprise everybody, keep it close to myself. And when it happened, right?"
Yeah, well, I was surprised too. I mean, I saw it on social media, and that's where I saw the picture and everything in the celebration afterwards. And I thought, I need to contact Coach and congratulate him on this. Mission accomplished as far as keeping it quiet from everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, let's go back in your history because I believe when you started out, you were a track coach at Hill Murray High School, which is one of our partner schools. Um, was it ever really in your mind to become a head football coach somewhere?
Yeah, so before I came to Winona, I was at Hill for quite some time. I was a head coach, track coach, defensive coordinator, coached basketball and taught there. Um, and if you would have asked me when I was in high school, I would have told you that I'm probably going to be a high school basketball coach, just because, that was something I was also passionate in. And I started coaching, you know, basketball when I was still in high school, but then I started coaching football, like right into college and just kind of grew on me, and the strategy and the X's and O's and all that kind of stuff I really enjoyed that piece of it. And so, had my first kid and was kind of thinking, you like to be close to family, whether it's Emily's family who was from Winona or my family who's from Glen City, Wisconsin. It's like, as a kid, it would be nice to have some family there in case the kid gets sick. You don't have to take off work all the time. And I guess Winona had an opening. I guess that just kind of fell into our laps.
Yeah, so you get the call from Winona to become their head football coach. You had to think about it a little bit, but as you said, family was from Winona, so it was maybe a little bit easier to decide. But this was a program that was struggling when you took over. How much did that kind of take into account, and what were your thoughts in taking over a team that hadn't won a game in about 2 years?
Yeah, obviously that was a thought process too, but I think what really trumped it for me was family, and the need and the want for my wife and I to have family close, and understanding that, taking over a program that had struggled, it sometimes is a lot of work, and it is a lot of work, and but that when you see some of those, positives, you can build upon those, and hopefully good things happen. So, yeah, you came down there and things were tough. And got, new coaches, and some coaches left, some parents bought in, some parents supported us, our kids bought in, the community started to buy in, and then good things kind of slowly happened.
Yeah, it was amazing. For those that don't know, it was a 37 game losing streak that you finally snapped. And then I think you also snapped a 15-year losing streak in the playoffs. You get a playoff win, and things kind of snowballed from there. Tell me what it was like to finally see some success in the program as you broke those streaks and started getting going.
Yeah, I think our kids started to believe a little bit. They hadn't won for a long time, so in 2007 we won our first game, which was kind of a big deal. It just to kind of get over that hump and get that one. We were 1-8 that year, but you still got that one win. But then in 2008 we ended up being 7-3. Kind of got over that hump. That's when we won that. We're section runners up. We won some playoff games. We ended up, doing some really cool things. And then I think our kids were like, okay, we kind of got this, right? In the next couple of years, I think we were 4-5. The next 2 years kind of kept things going. And then we had just a little, and next year I think we were 1-8, but then we kind of picked it back up. So I think our kids started to see what older kids were doing and understanding what it took to be a successful football team and a football program. And it's a lot of hard work to win consistently in a lot of things. And football isn't easy and it takes a lot of commitment, in the off season. You don't just go play football in June and July unless you're on a team, and that's where I think it's unique from, some of the other sports.
So then in 2016, it kind of all came together. You get to a great season, as you said, championships. You get to the Prep Bowl. What was it like to finally lead this team to the Prep Bowl?
It was really exciting. And number one, my staff was great in those experiences with my staff and those families, and just the community involvement was really neat to see the support that kind of came out from alumni to really old alumni to just people in the community thinking how great it was, and then you just realize how special it is to get that far and what it really takes. Number one, obviously your community has to back you. Your kids have to work extremely hard, but you also have to be a little lucky. You have to have the ball bounce your right way, or you need to stay healthy in a position where you're kind of maybe a little slim. And so, I think you have to be good as a coach, but I think you even have to be better at luck. And you have to have the dudes. Like it's the Jimmies and Joes. Like if I don't have the guys, it doesn't matter who's coaching them. Like, I might be a good coach, but there's, another 8,000 just like me running around the United States of America.
All right. Well, tell me a little bit about this year's team then. How's it going this year in Winona?
Yeah, so far it's been pretty good. We're 2-1. We lost our first game to SMB by one score. We had some opportunities to score, but we, just didn't make it happen. I think that's part of the learning process, right? How do you win? How do you lose? And what can you fix? So 2-1 right now. You feel, solid with where we're at, but we also now we're going to get into district football. We're going to play Stewartville, who, defending state champions. They lost last week to a close one. Then we play Byron, who's been to state a couple years. So it's not going to get easier. Our guys are going to have to continue to work hard and have good things happen and stay healthy. And without that, it can be really tricky. So again, that luck falls in. Our guys have worked hard and they're buying in and they're seeing what they need to do to get better and they're working at it. And that's really what you want them to do.
All right. So off the field a little bit, but still professionally, you're the principal at Houston High School, which is kind of interesting because you still kept the head football coaching job at Winona. First of all, what is it like to become a principal, and is that something that you were looking at as a possible career path in the future?
Yeah, so we'll talk about career path in the future first. Well, my wife's been a principal for, I think this is year 8 in Winona. And I knew that I wanted to leave the teaching profession. Leave's probably not the proper term, but advance my career. And it was at some point I either wanted to be an athletic director or a principal. And then over time, as I, kind of dove in and did a little bit more stuff, I really liked the principal role. And so that kind of, led me to that. I was very patient. I waited till my high school kid graduated, my daughter. I didn't want to try to do this plus be a parent and running the games and all that kind of stuff. So I just waited patiently. And she graduated last year, and so I interviewed here and was fortunate enough to get the job. So that's kind of how that kind of fell into place. I accepted the position down here in June. Had a great conversation with my superintendent down here, met with HR from Winona, met with the superintendent from Winona, and all of those people were great. They supported me doing both. I don't know if this is going to be a 20 years of doing both. I'm a very busy individual, which is okay. But with the new principal, there's a lot of new stuff. I'm very fortunate to have a great supporting coaching staff and obviously athletic department in Winona. The nice part about football is you can do so much ahead of time. My our season was really planned out in May of last year, like when practice was and all that kind of stuff. So there's some little things that you can do. The also thing with football is you have one game a week, theoretically, right?
Mhm.
So it's not like a baseball or a basketball where you're going to be gone two or three times. How has it affected Houston? Last week I didn't miss any school, but the week before when we had a 6 o'clock game in the cities, I had to take a couple hours off here, and people in Houston stepped in. The superintendent and our special education directors like you go, and we'll take care of your building if anything happens. So I think I'm just super lucky to have again support in both districts right now.
Very good. And how does it work in Winona? Maybe not seeing the kids every day, except for practice, but not during the day as a teacher. How has that changed? How difficult maybe it is to be a head football coach?
Yeah, I think it's definitely different for me. I'm used to seeing the players and before school and in the weight room and like during lunch and after school and just being able to have those interactions. So, that has been different for me. It's made me rely a little bit more on Travis Steiny, my associate head coach, and this is year 20 of his with me. So, he's kind of been with me kind of the whole time too and understands like systematically what we want to do. And then my defensive coordinator is also at the high school. So it helps that those are two guys, both my coordinators are at the high school. And then obviously Jeremy Graves is there too. So I still have three, coaches on staff that can kind of do some of the things that I've done in the past, but it's different, because I don't get to do it myself. And sometimes they're like, wow, we didn't really know some of the things that you just took care of.
All right. And then last question here. You said you don't know if this is going to be 20 years of being able to be a head football coach and a principal, but how long do you think you're going to keep going as a head football coach?
Yeah, I love what I do. And, in Winona, the community is, obviously super, super important to me. Families, the relationships and things like that. So I think for me, I have to evaluate it at the end of the season. I have to sit down, with myself and my wife, and we kind of need to talk about, that piece of it. I also think I need to sit down with my coaching staff, like how did it go? Where are we at? How are we feeling? And then also obviously both, Winona and Houston's administration and be like, all right, how did it go? Were there things that didn't go well? Is this sustainable to do it some more? Because, I really enjoy it. It's kind of who I am, or it has been who I am, right, for a long time. And it's kind of funny, even down in Houston, the kids will be like, hey, how'd you guys do last night? Or like one day I went on a football thing. They're like, hey, you're not supposed to be wearing that. You're our principal. And I was like, yeah, but I got a game tonight. And they're like, that's true. So it's good. I think the kids understand too. And I'm just very lucky that everyone's been supportive. I met with my leaders before I took the job and kind of talked to them about how it's going to work. I've met with, the Touchdown Club members too. And, they understand that I might be 15 minutes late to practice, or I might, miss a day if something comes up. And I think with the experience on my staff, that helps a ton. The ability to not feel like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna miss, 12 minutes of practice, like it's the end of the world. I'm pretty fortunate that Houston ends at 3, Winona ends at 3:30. So I'm able to stay down here for, 15 to 20 minutes every day and still only miss, the warm up and maybe just a little bit more. But technology helps. I can text the coaches. We have group chats, so, back and forth, and obviously relying on our leaders and our, experienced staff to help with some things.
All right, very good. Well, congratulations again on the 100 wins, and thank you for taking the time to talk to us here on NSPN.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, John Cassellius, the head football coach at Winona Senior High School and principal at Houston High School. Thanks for joining us. I'm Justin Barrientos, NSPN.